Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
And guest.
Hey, welcome in. I'm sorry.
Paul, if you didn't get that, that was me trying to cue you in on what was happening.
Yeah, well, I thought we had like a longer thing going on there and all that. So,
What kind of operation are you running?
I know,
here?
rinky-dink operation. It's my fault. Although I will tell you, usually I have Smokey's headset, which acts as a speaker for the entire building because it's very loud and I can hear the theme song over there. Today I could not. And so that this is like this third time this has happened where, you know, I've been sitting there waiting to start and waiting to hear the music back there, and I don't.
I can't believe that they got all your weird political opinions on camera right then.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. I just flat out believe that Myanmar's not a real place. No. No.
Well, neither is Wyoming.
Yeah. Birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real.
What other internet conspiracy? Look, I don't think the world is flat or round. I think it's octagonal. No.
We just live in the cube. That's it.
That's it. Anyway, Royden Ogletree joins me today, as he does most every Tuesday. And Royden, the coaching carousel spins not quite as out of control as it's been in the past.
No.
There have been some, like this was, right? I mean, there's some surprises. I think nationally, people are probably surprised at the Baylor situation.
I mean, every national reporter was reporting on it in real time, being like, no, he's still here, guys.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, I know every job gets reported on, but the amount of traction that was on the Baylor stuff was actually kind of unbelievable to me.
Yeah, especially since the local people didn't have it first. But
Right.
anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Not my job.
Just gonna leave that floating out there. But we didn't know until Pete Thamel did. So
Yeah. Funny.
but anyhow, Chip Kelly was surprising because 3 weeks ago it seemed like, well, they're just going to kind of let him run out the string here, and then UCLA is going to let him go. He's back, but there have been other ones that are not surprising. Jimbo Fisher should not have been a surprise to anybody that was really watching the situation.
Well, it was also 3 weeks ago now, but yes.
But yeah, I mean, like if you go through it,
They did the right thing. In retrospect, A&M did the right thing, which is what you need to be doing as these schools. You cannot wait any longer until after the end of the season to get a jump on these things. You need that kind of 2-week buildup before the end of the season to then offer these coaches. They actually kind of did the right thing in retrospect.
yeah,
Now,
and they still kind of waited a little too long to get their coach. But
Right.
But we're going to talk about who made the best hire so far, and there haven't been that many hires. Right now, we're still in the
4, I think.
Yeah, so there've been 4 hires: Michigan State, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and
I have it right here.
who am I leaving out?
Michigan State, Northwestern hired their interim coach.
Yeah, so they hired David Braun, and that was the best thing they could have done, I think, especially given how
They had no right winning 7 games this year.
They improved. They won
Yeah.
a game a year ago.
Yeah.
So, and they made a 6-game improvement after all this got cleared out. So
That was kind of the question that Shahan Jerry Raja on Twitter was asking. He was like, what was Pat Fitzgerald doing last year?
Yeah, well, you know, when you ask him, do you have a culture problem after he gets fired for this hazing and stuff? He's like, no, there's no way we have a culture problem. And then you're 6 games better. I'm sorry, I'm going to need you to reassess what you think is wrong with the program.
Yeah.
Because it's not like in the middle of the spring when Pat Fitzgerald got fired, Northwestern became a wash in talent all of a sudden.
Right.
You know, so, yeah, they won 7 games, and they're going to a bowl game under what was then an interim coach. So maybe it was a little overdue for Pat Fitzgerald to not be there anymore.
Right. Well, it was the there's a whole other thing here too with that. Was the interim coach there under that administration that came under fire?
Yeah.
Or was he brought in?
Who was that? This is his first year there. Like, they brought him in the offseason to be the offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And so then when they let go of Pat Fitzgerald, they just had to
promote him.
They promoted him because they felt he was the best one to run it. And, hey, congratulations, smart guys.
Yeah.
You got it right. That doesn't always happen. Look at the Pac-12.
Well, do you want to, speaking of the Pac-12, it's going to be no more, but what is left of the Pac-12, somebody had a funny sign that said the Pac-12 championship was Washington State and Oregon State, but Jonathan Smith is leaving.
Yeah, which I think, going through the hires, I'm going to put David Braun as like number 4 just because it was good, but it was a weird situation, so it doesn't necessarily.
Hey, you want to keep doing this for a little bit?
It doesn't necessarily fall into it, although he did a very good job. But the 3 that have been made, personally, I'll rank them as Jonathan Smith is a home run among home runs. Mike Elko, also a great hire. And Jeff Lebby, I'm going to wait and see. I'm very curious. I'm very curious on it. I mean, he's clearly worked his way up at Mississippi State, but Mississippi State is also one of the most difficult SEC jobs to have in that you are, at best, in the middle of the pack. Mm-hmm. And now you've got 2 teams that are historically not only better than you, like leagues better than you. I mean, way, way ahead of you. Like there's no metric where you can look at Oklahoma or Texas's history compared to Mississippi State and them go, well, we're just right there.
Right.
So it gets even like the SEC gets harder for every coach because of Oklahoma and Texas coming in. But for coaches at Mississippi State, at Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, South Carolina, it gets way, way harder because you were already hoping for that one magical year where you could be in the championship game. Now there's no divisions.
Yeah.
And the 2 teams coming in aren't exactly like A&M and Missouri were, where they're good teams, but they're not historically legendary programs that have won multiple national titles.
Yeah, well, the best case scenario, and you mentioned it too, is for these teams, and it's for most teams in the country actually that aren't Alabama, Georgia, to name a few, but like the best that you can hope for is to poke and prod for a couple of years, gain traction with seniors and upperclassmen, and then make that big leap for one special year.
Yeah.
You see it I'm Baylor alum. You see it at Baylor. You've seen it at Baylor now like 3 times. TCU, exactly. Yeah. TCU's the Cincinnati before them is sort of the poster child for this. That feels impossible a little bit with how deep the SEC is now. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a lot of have-nots, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I don't like Lebby as a play caller, just in general. How he will run a program is notwithstanding. Without that, they've always said, and I'm trying to recall his name right now, but Evan Ebert has always said on Twitter that the Lebby-Bryles offense can get you 70 yards in the middle of the field when you don't need it, and 20 yards, and can't get you 20 yards when you do need it. And that feels a little reductive, but it feels sort of what has happened with the Lebby teams over the past few years.
My beef with this system was always it was so boom or bust, and it had there were things that it didn't travel to everywhere.
Right.
If it was cold or raining or it had rained, but it wasn't. It was muddy. Like you couldn't run it as fast as you wanted to, and you never practiced it. You never practiced it in the elements. I can just tell you, and I've told this story many times in the air, but I was always think well, this isn't good. I feel like Baylor's going to lose whenever they would ask Art, look, it looks like there's some rain in the forecast, and he'd be like, yeah, we don't like that. We don't like that. And you're like, yeah, I know that nobody likes it. Everybody's going to have to stand on the sideline or be in the stands is going to hate it too. But the fact that you are worried that your whole game plan is going to be undone by God, seems like a flaw in the system in that you need to not worry about these things. Look, everybody's offense is worse in the elements, but who can adapt and do things when it's not? And that was the thing that always kind of got me, was like, all right, well, if the weather's bad, the other team's probably going to win this game because they're not ready for this at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't also have the capability to go slow when it needs to. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you're playing an offense that's just as fast as you, and the decision is, instead of like, hey, maybe let's slow it down so they don't have that much time to score because we know it only takes them, 30 seconds because we do the same thing. They don't know how to just slow it down and go, oh.
Well, when the Leach disciples would meet in West Virginia every year between Holgerson and Briles, it was a bloodbath. And of just like cars going 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I understand that Mississippi State has had relative success under Mike Leach, and now this is 3 generations removed under Lebby of that system.
Yeah.
But they want to go fast. That's kind of what they just want to do. Mm-hmm. And, more power to them. I think if they decided that that's what they wanted to do, and clearly it wasn't working very well with their last.
Zach Arnett tried to go away from it.
Yeah.
And that's where you saw that 7-3 Arkansas stinker that they had.
Yeah.
Where Iowa was like, guys,
ew,
gross. Like,
hey, grow up, play some real football.
Yeah, like this is like, even we are offended by this.
Yeah.
So you have that game, but you don't, like, I remember 7-3, and I hadn't watched Mississippi State all year, and then you kind of look down to like their offensive stats. They've got Will Rogers, who's now in the portal as a grad transfer because he's gonna want to go to a system that's like the one he was playing in.
Which he should probably just stay.
Well,
I mean, for like 5,000 yards.
And it depends on how quick Lebby can, bridge that gap, right? Yeah. And it is transfer portal season. Look, he's in, Blake Shapen's in, Will Howard's in. That's another thing we can talk about later on. But the key to a lot of this is player retention too, because I think Deion Sanders was like a partial success story at Colorado, but he's also put himself in a situation where, they're 4-8 team, like, to get to where he wants to be. He needs to he's going to have another roster refresh and all this, and it's probably not sustainable in the way that he did it in year one. So you'd really rather keep enough players if you feel like they're good enough to at least move you on or can play in your system year one, to me.
Yeah. All of the Colorado decommits yesterday, this is a completely separate topic, but all of the Colorado was like, it made my head spin.
Yeah.
It was one after the other after the other. Anyway, there was a lot of interesting conversations going on Twitter that I didn't engage with about the Lebby program, and I'm just not interested in it anymore. Yeah. They hired him. They have apparently weighed the choices in that.
Yeah.
And there's nuance in that conversation if you want to go into it. Be my guest.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in it any further.
Yeah.
I think we have all decided as college football that, like, that is what comes first to a lot of people, and Mississippi State has kind of decided that and weighed those options and weighed it with the fan base and measured it and found not guilty.
You can keep running through it, but like everybody who worked there except for Art has been hired.
Yeah, it's kind of
5 times by
that's
now.
what I'm saying. It's like the nuance. It like kind of starts and ends there.
Like they've been vetted. It's. I mean, everybody had like a small role that like maybe they could have done something differently, but I mean, if you know about the thing, you're like, this is really kind of the feat of people who made a lot more money than the assistants did.
Yeah, I'm just saying the nuance there is you can engage on those conversations on Twitter if you want to.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I think it's pointless. I mean, I think that every time it happens and everybody has to clutch pearls, and that way people can feel like you've significantly, addressed it. But yeah, I don't think it's worth it. Now let's move on to Mike Elko at Texas A&M. I think that was, like, other than Jeff Traylor, to me would have been maybe the longer term play of a guy who could really, be there. I don't think that there's much difference actually between Elko and Traylor as excellent football coaches who can run a program. But I do think that when it came down to it, is Jeff Traylor going to be able to keep that roster together like a guy who already knows the players? like Mike Elko. And
I recruited some of them.
They recruited some of them. No, and that's the thing at A&M. Sometimes you want, like, you want to come in and the roster, like at Colorado, you guys don't have to stay if you don't want. There's other places. At A&M, you're like, no, please stay. Like, this is us sending Jimbo Fisher out the door. It's us acknowledging that you're not the problem.
Right.
Like, you guys are fine.
No, you are talented at football, we promise.
Yeah, we are here to try to win an SEC title with the team that most people think should be contending for the SEC title. Based on the recruiting numbers, A&M should be contending for the SEC title. Now, recruiting doesn't always translate to that. And A&M is the best example of it, maybe in the entire country, year over year, of, even when they're not having these like top 5 classes, they're routinely in the top 12. So you would think that one of them, like one of those groups of people, would have broken through and really pushed it. But it hasn't happened because they haven't had the right guy at the helm. I think Mike Elko's that guy because I don't think he's that flashy. I know he's not that flashy. There's no bravado to him. There's no, I've done it this way. He's still like, I think Jimbo wasn't hungry for it anymore in the same way he was when he was first at FSU. Like,
the man that got the guaranteed contract. And
yeah, like Mike Elko's, he hasn't done it yet. He's hungry for it.
Right.
I think there's some difference in that. Is where Jimbo, he felt himself untouchable, but also when people can give you a fully guaranteed contract with a buyout that is the full value of the remaining contract, that is the definition of FU money.
I've made it. Mike Elko, I loved what he did at Duke. They had some tough injury luck. Everybody does, but I think, their quarterback getting injured and everything down the stretch really kind of derailed where they could have really gone this season. I haven't seen players hit like that first game and they played Clemson and beat Clemson at home in a long time. Those dudes that he was coaching were flying around the ball.
And here's the deal. Clemson, that wasn't their problem, was being physical.
Yeah.
Like, their problem was being necessarily like athletic on offense. But as far as a team that'll still, even in its worst state that it's been in, they'll line up and hit you. Like, they out-muscled Clemson, which was Clemson's only real skill this year, which tells you how tough Duke was.
Right. And not for nothing, like, not to offend any Duke fans, if you can get Duke to be a winning program, you're a pretty good coach. I think you're a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
Sorry, like, to Duke fans, like, you just are.
Not just winning, but where you're playing the best teams in your conference, or you're playing Notre Dame, and people are like, people aren't going like, well, maybe Duke can pull this off. Look at these guys. Like, you're thinking,
it's like a 3-point spread.
Duke's probably going to win this game. Like, those are the kind of things that are good. And A&M needs a little practicality. And that's what he is.
Yeah.
He is just, sometimes the safe thing to do is the best thing to do. I know that there's a push from people to be like, fortune favors the brave and like really roll the dice. Well, that's what they did with Jimbo Fisher in every aspect of the word. So now really they put themselves in a position where we can't go create another Jimbo Fisher. That's why when everybody's talking about like Dabo Swinney could get into this, I'd be like, well, isn't Dabo like the same where, he's had all this success. You're just going to throw a bunch of more money at him to get him to leave, but there's no incentive for him to do things any differently.
Yeah.
Because now you're just validating, what's going on.
Well, there's literal incentives for Mike Elko. I don't know if you saw the litany of the treasure trove that they gave him if they win.
Yeah. Look, I'm surprised that it's only $3 million for Texas A&M if he wins the national title.
Yeah, but maybe they have more confidence in themselves. They've always had more confidence in themselves.
To me, as badly as they want that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, they'd be like, look, here's the deal.
Don't put a price on free food and drink for life.
That's true. That's true.
Wait, did they write that in his contract?
No, but they would have it. Look, I'm telling you, Mike Elko.
I was genuinely like,
have it for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think that needs to be in the contract. You win a national title at A&M, you do not pay for crap in that town ever again.
Right.
No. You don't have to pay for a house. Like, a tornado could come through and wipe out his big, gigantic house, and they'll be like, you know what? Don't worry about it. what didn't you like about that one? We'll fix it with this one.
Hey, you want the Bear Bryant stat? We can give you that.
Yeah, we'll remake anything you want.
You want Reveille to be your house pet?
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
She's yours.
Yeah, that's what it would be like. And look, there are I mean, every college has them, is the free drinks for life club. And A&M's is
RC Slocum? No.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the winningest coach that they had. And they still love him. But like Bucky Richardson's in that. He's before your time. He was a quarterback there. Dat Win is like, believe me, I've been at an A&M game with Dat Win, and like just we're friends, and like we I told him to come by this tailgate that I was at, and it was honestly like I had invited Queen Elizabeth. Like people like
my brother-in-law is coaching pee-wee football for his sons, and we were just throwing the football around, and he's like, yeah, and the other guy is the other coach on the other team, they're undefeated. Was Dat Win. I don't know if you remember that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, talk about a blast from the past.
You know why? They get free Chick-fil-A. He owns a Chick-fil-A.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. So, look, they're powered with Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
But I do think that Mike Elko fits the vibe of A&M very well, and he also is a guy who, everybody's got ego, but it doesn't drive him like it did Jimbo Fisher.
Well, look, you've gone from flashy to big name. Flashy and Kevin Sumlin, the A&M copter, and Johnny Manziel, and these big offenses and everything else, and scoring 1 million points, to it's supposed to be this offensive head coach genius getting paid a bunch of money, to this guy whose like suit doesn't fit and is kind of like happy to be here.
Yeah.
Like, no offense to him, but I'm just saying, like, it just, the visual of it is like, all right, I'm here to coach football. You know what I mean?
Exactly what
it's
they
the first
need.
time that I put on a suit in like 10 years.
Since my press conference at Duke.
Right.
I'll put one on again if you make me for a fundraising effort, but.
Yeah, and I mean, they sort of need that hard-nosed coach to then mold these 5-star recruits that they continue to get.
You know what's funny is that kind of how is what they were under RC Slocum.
Yeah.
Like that's what they were. They were like this hard-nosed, they were a little blue collar. There was this, and then all of a sudden, they kind of hit the lottery, and they've been the kind of people who like, sure, I have 6 vacation homes. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, you can only
but I'm still a hard worker.
But you can only be in one at one time. Yeah, but like I don't want anybody else in the place that I want to be when I'm not there. Like that kind of thing. Can't just go to a resort. Like, no, I have to have one in different climates. So yeah, I think that's good. Now I do think as we wrap up this segment, the best hire to me in the whole thing is Jonathan Smith.
Bar none. Michigan State had to hit a home run.
Yeah.
Granted, he has like a 500 record at Oregon State, which is weird that he would, it was his alma mater. He played quarterback there. But they had reached the pinnacle, I think, of what they were going to reach under him. I think they went 10-3 and then 8-4 this year. Mm-hmm. So that kind of is what it is at Oregon State. And I'm not saying it's not going to be that way at Michigan State, but Michigan State has shown that they can be one of those teams that prods around and then has the huge year where, heck, maybe they're fighting for a playoff spot. I mean, what were they, 6 when they played Baylor in the Cotton Bowl or whatever?
Yeah.
So, like, they kind of remind me of a Baylor in that way. Now, they're a big state school.
Yeah.
But also they're coming off scandals.
Well, I mean, they had to
and they had to get somebody that was going to that knew how to ride a ship and truly rebuild a program.
Well, and yeah, that's what he did. And plus, if you're Oregon State, like if you're the coach at Oregon State, do you want that job right now? I mean,
that's part of the reason that people are citing that he left.
Yeah, they're. I mean, look, they know their schedule now. It's going to be 7 Mountain West teams, and Washington State and some of the other schools already had on their list, but that were there. But those can go away. But so they're essentially a de facto Mountain West school, although they're going to be a 2-team conference for 2 years until they figure that out, which means they'll eventually probably be in the Mountain West unless, the ACC.
It stinks for them because they were more or less like relegated.
Yeah, no, it's awful for both those schools. But if you are Jonathan Smith and you have options, like you kind of have to take them because you have no idea if this little gambit is going to work out in 2 years or if it's just going to wind up being like, oh, well.
I mean, I wonder how the people of Oregon State feel about that. I really do, because, like, on one hand, you got to be like, our administration kind of failed getting on the train out of town. On the other hand, dude, you were our guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, who do you blame here? I'm kind of on the side of our administration kind of ran us aground a little bit. But yeah, I wouldn't blame Oregon State fans if they're like, man, if we can't get our former quarterback who led us to a little bit more prosperity and built us back to what we were, like, we would have built a statue of you if you would have kept playing.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's
like,
funny.
Who can we get to stay here?
Yeah, but I mean, they'll get somebody. I mean, somebody's going to be there that they can be there and prove it. But again, he has options, and I don't think you can blame him because if you're the athletic director and the president there, you can give him no solid future answers. He's like, all right, so if I commit to you guys and turn down Michigan State, which is going to be a bunch of money, which they have Big Ten money, and you guys are going to probably, to match this, have to rob Peter to pay Paul a little bit, which means there's something coming out of something else. And you can't tell me what's going to happen in 2 years because none of us know. That's the thing. Like 2 years from now, they can say, like, we feel like we'll be really positioned for a good move in 2 years. Yeah, but we don't know what that is. Yeah. And, if you go to Michigan State, what conference is Michigan State going to be in 2 years? What conference are they going to be in 20 years? What conference are they going to be in at the end of time? They're going to be in the Big Ten.
When the sun explodes,
yes,
Michigan State will be playing Michigan.
Yeah, like that's where they're going to be. So they can give me assurances, and there's money there that I know is coming that you guys just don't know. And you got to love your alma mater, but it's not like he's going to work at Oregon. Plus,
no, that's true.
Plus, from Michigan State's side of it, you're about to play Washington, UCLA, USC, and Oregon, rotating through. But who better to hire than somebody who knows those schools?
Right.
And can bring that kind of style of play to the Big Ten, which is coming.
Yeah. And also, I mean, Corvallis, Oregon State has always had a pretty interesting record of getting talent to, like, come in waves to Corvallis.
Yeah.
But that Michigan State is going to need an influx of talent.
Yeah.
And if he can get people to commit to going to Oregon State, I think he can get people in that area to commit to going to Michigan State. But, buddy, look, more power to them. They are in for a heck of a rebuild.
Oh, yeah.
They are fighting some demons.
Well, I mean, look, they already, one of the funnier stories is they had 2 quarterbacks go in the portal yesterday already. And one of them did because he was a 4-star out of Oregon who was never recruited by Jonathan Smith at Oregon State. So he's like, well, I'm not going to play for him now because he didn't like me then. And, I don't think Jonathan Smith clearly didn't care because he didn't want him at Oregon State. Yeah. So
I like you then, brother.
Yeah. So, well, he didn't come in and go like the social media thing that he sent out was like, which I just felt disrespected during the recruitment. And I'm sure John Smith's like, probably didn't want to do that, but all right. I mean,
I'm sorry that you feel that way.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah.
But, I assessed,
peace.
Yeah. That's it. So, all right. When we come back, going into next year, who will remain on the hot seat?
I got a list.
Yeah. Royden's got a list. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Royden Ogletree, and I can hear it now.
Where are those voices coming from?
Oh, yeah. No, this building's haunted.
Oh, good.
It's one of the rare new buildings that's haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
It just is. No.
Moon's
Usually
haunted.
it's old.
What? Moon's haunted.
A lot of things
It's
happen.
haunted by this old guy who, like, he's been doing the same job for, decades. He used to live out in Tyler, I think you mentioned.
Yeah. Occasionally he gets loud. I wanted
Who specifically are we talking about by name?
I want to talk about coaches on the hot seat here. Roy.
Yes.
And I think Chip Kelly, who is, I think he's 34-34 or something like that, or maybe one game under 500 now that he got roasted by Cal.
Yeah.
And somehow kept his job after all that heat. And I do think, and I'm going to say this, the age of the cantankerous a-hole coach is slowly ending. It's not going to be like rapid because there's so many people that grew up in it. Now you can be a hard-nosed, like disciplined, hard work guy, but the Urban Meyer, Chip Kelly, Jimbo Fisher, my way or the highway, like how dare you cross me guy, it's kind of over because that's not how society is really trending.
Yeah, meanwhile, Gary Patterson's going to get a job at New Mexico State or whatever.
Gary Patterson's not getting another job.
You don't think so?
No. Gary Patterson got run off a team that played after he left in the national championship that clearly wasn't doing well because he's a dick. I have no problem saying that. Gary Patterson is a dick. He's just mean. And he lies, and he's a conspiracy theorist. The whole thing about Jerry
Plays guitar a lot.
Jerry Kill, who's the coach at New Mexico State that just beat Auburn, and I think they're 8-4 or 9-3. They had a really good season. Jerry Kill got run over in the SMU game a couple years ago when SMU won. In Gary's last year, and he said, they planned to get Jerry Kill. We have it on video. It was all planned out. And then you see it, and it's like, no, Jerry just kind of tripped when his own players were exiting going on the field. So those kind of things. The whole thing with him and Bryles was completely manufactured in his head. Like he completely manufactured a lot of this. And then of course Baylor leaned into it, but I remember the press conference, after Ahmad Dixon got ejected from the game, and he's like, Gary Patterson lives in Fort Worth. He can come to my house. Like, all right, dude. Like, you got to grow up. Like, he accused Baylor of stealing plays, of illegally scouting. Illegally scouting in a game he won by 40 points. So, he's crazy. He's not getting another job. He'll be if he wants to be an analyst, Gary Patterson, he's 64 years old. He's crazy. He's not getting another job.
The Argonauts are calling, brother.
Okay, well, and again, you think his sensibility is going to apply in Canada? No.
You're being real aggressive right now, eh?
Yeah. Hey, nobody's conspiring against you, brother. I mean, we're just here having a good time playing 3-down football.
3-down football.
But yeah,
huge field. Chip Kelly, 34-34.
34-34. Okay,
26 and 26 in conference.
Yeah.
Which I guess that checks. But what a weird coaching career. Because he couldn't do any wrong at Oregon.
No.
10-3, 12-1, 12-2, 12-1. I mean, then the stint in the NFL where he went 10-6, 10-6, and then 6-9, and then for some reason got another job in San Francisco and was 2-14. They're like, nah,
Yeah.
I don't know what he would have to do to be successful again. And I guess maybe your point then stands is that the cantankerous coaches.
Those guys
no
are
more.
going away. You can't recruit to that anymore. You can't. I'm not saying everybody has to be Ted Lasso, but like you need to be somewhere between Gary Patterson and Ted Lasso. Like you can't be on, especially on the further extreme of the crazy. Like it's just not going to fly anymore because the world's different now. And it just doesn't, like, you can be a hard ass, but you cannot be like crazy.
Yeah, there's a fine line that you have to draw with these kids. I think that like there's some that need a kick in the pants, and then there's a lot of others that are just kind of like, no, I know what to do. Just like point me in the right direction.
Well, especially now that they're making money.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, so now that they're making money,
I make the same amount of you, broke boy. Like, what are you-
yeah, I don't like. Yeah, that would be an outstanding thing if that happened. But no,
some defensive line coach is trying to tell me what to do. Like,
yeah, exactly. So you've got to treat them a little bit differently because I think there's some coaches that are going to eventually get out of it because they don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah,
because it's just not in their skill set to be like, listen, I know that we really want you to stay here and here's more money. Like before it was like, this is the University of Awesome and we're awesome and I'm Coach Awesome and everything works because I say it does and we're going to do things my way.
It is written.
And if you can't take it, then we don't care if you leave. Now it's like, we're like, look, I think we have a good plan and we really want you to be part of our family. And,
Kumbaya.
here's our offer. And, we're ready to work hard. That's kind of how it has to be. There has to be a middle ground. So it can't be all or nothing, right?
I'm just shocked that they kept him after because it hasn't really peaked.
He had a good year last year, and
okay,
but then those guys so this year was the year we were supposed to build off the good year. You'd finally built to it, but your quarterback graduated. Your running back's gone. Your best wide receiver's gone. Like all those things, 3 or 4 defensive players that were pretty good for you are all gone. So how do you replace this program that for a long time had no stars? Like, occasionally you'd hear about a UCLA player and they're like, oh man, that guy's good. But the team wasn't really good. But it'd be one guy. But now you've got, 7, 8, 9 guys going to the NFL and you're like, oh, this is a team that contended for the Pac-12 title. Okay, how do you do it in the year after that? How do you replace those guys?
It's maybe the thought, and also going into the Big Ten or whatever, you need some balance. I feel like is probably their thought. But what are UCLA's expectations?
I don't know. I think that they.
Obviously they want to compete, but
yeah. I think that they are UCLA football wise. They've misallocated resources for a long, long time. It's a basketball school. Let's not make any qualms about that. But I do think that the powers that be see the money on the table for football and go, oh, well, we should probably be better at this considering that we're in one of the best talent hotbeds in the country. Our school's literally in Bel Air. We're elite academically. Like all these things that you have going on for you. And you're like, well, how are we not better at football?
Yeah.
That's probably where they are right now is, we should be better at this.
They're kind of the Chargers of college football.
Yeah.
Quite literally. Like you stinks being the second team in a city with as much to do as Los Angeles.
Yeah, but they're also but they're also again, high school recruiting talent. They're in a place
still
where,
there,
not high school, but also transfers. You're telling me that you can't get kids to come and play in Bel Air? I know, or play in Pasadena, but live and go to school in that part of LA. Buddy, you're not really.
Are you trying?
You're not really,
Also
thinking about this the right way.
So Chip Kelly's, Dorian Thompson-Robinson put up crazy numbers there in his career, but is that system still as inventive as it was?
Well, so many people are doing it now.
Yeah.
And part of that is that people have worked for Chip Kelly, right? Yeah. They're out there in the world. They're out there doing their thing. So
I'm just and it feels like because it was so wild and so crazy and 18 different uniform combinations were running across the field at one time. It kind of was this is from another planet when you first saw what they were doing. Of course, Bryles was doing Oregon South, but it was very inventive 15 years ago now. the competition, I think, is I
I
guess
mean, and people
emulated
figure,
or
like,
caught up with it.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody, and when you have a good idea, somebody's going to copy it.
Yeah.
So I think that's it with Chip Kelly. I mean, we with Dave Aranda, like it is a make or break year for him. It is very clear that's a make or break year for him. He's got to hire an offensive coordinator. He's going to start calling defensive plays. Like there are things that are going to change wholesale, which I'm just not sure are going to happen in a year. Like it's not, Baylor's not a brand name that you can flip around in a year or two. Like usually it takes a bit of a build. Like I think it, and maybe with the transfer portal you can, but the schools that do well in the transfer portal and like all of a sudden take that jump are usually schools that you're like, oh, well.
I see what you're saying. You can't go from being like very bad. I mean, Dave Aranda did it in his second year, but that was with players that weren't recruited by him. We've gone over this, and everybo's talked about this now on Baylor Media for 10 weeks. I think that I see what you're saying in that you can't go from being really, really bad to 11 wins usually in one season. It takes sort of that Matt Rule build-up where it took like 4 seasons to get where it needed to go, 3 seasons. But, yeah, this is it. People aren't happy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't say anything new that hasn't been like beaten to death online already. My whole thing is that you cannot be 61st in recruiting.
Yeah.
That just can't happen. You can't be behind, I keep saying, like New Mexico State or whoever, Army. Like, you cannot be behind the schools that make you sign up to do armed services and sign up for like war. You can't do that. I just think that it's going to take a really big reel to reel this in. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the staffing hires change that in any significant way for him.
In a year. Like all the things, like the increased NIL, the new offensive system, the new coordinator, like all those things. You're trying to do this between today and August of next year,
while also holding on to any of those players that you have deemed good to play. They kept saying the 24 freshmen. The PR that was being put out there was, oh well, we played a whole bunch of freshmen. Well, you know who else played a whole bunch of freshmen? Iowa State.
Yeah,
they were really good.
Yeah,
and like they played more freshmen than you. So you have to determine.
It was unexpected.
Yeah,
in both regards, and they got caught less flat-footed than you did.
Right. I don't know. I don't have anything interesting to say that I haven't screamed into the void about Dave Aranda. A fire has to be lit somewhere. Mm-hmm. The hand-wringing from Baylor fans is a little much, but I will say this. You do not have to – the people were like, well, I mean, you know, people won't – if people don't show up, how are recruits going to want to come to this? My whole philosophy in life is you don't have to support a losing product. Life's too short.
Yeah. Well, and look.
And I'll say this. So if Baylor fans are like the factions are going, you should support the team. I think you should support your team. I will just say this. It is like life is too short to accept mediocrity. And that's where you don't want to be if you are Baylor.
I think that there's the line between like you're mad when the team is 8-4 and you're not going to go and you're
right,
like,
that's silly.
Now you're being a snob. But if they're 3-9 or worse, like then you probably the only way you can influence the decision at all is to not be there. So, and that's true for everywhere else. All right, who else is on your list?
Okay, so I know we're going long here, but Neil Brown still.
I mean, I think his seat is
it's lukewarm.
Lukewarm, but if he's 8-4 2 years in a row, then you got to take him off.
He'll be fine. I think the problem was going into this year was a prove it year. He did mostly. And so you got to see. I think if they crash back down to earth next year, not saying they will, but I think if they crash
I mean, they got most everybody coming back.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be all right.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, they had him on a prove it contract, quite literally. I was just like,
or prove it year. I mean, he's still like they would have had to buy him out, but yeah, he's he wasn't getting an extension. Like nobody was giving him that extension for nothing.
Yeah.
So
this is an interesting one, and it's mostly because I think people have kind of soured on his whole deal, even though he's had probably the most success that school's had in forever. PJ Fleck is an interesting name to me. He has been there.
I think, he's been there a while.
He's been there now 7 seasons.
Yeah, he's been there a while. They're very much the same, all the time.
Yeah.
Which for Minnesota that they kind of have to appreciate. But I wonder again with new conferences, and this is going to come across the board.
Yeah.
I think a lot of coaches' leases are shorter if they don't adapt. Mm-hmm. So
I'm just saying you can't go 5-7 again.
No, you can't go 5-7 again. But also, you can't. The Big Ten West is going to be an interesting study in this.
Yeah.
Because they were all set up to just kind of be like Iowa, where, if we get the right bounces, we don't have to have because there's only so many quarterbacks to go around. There's only so many guys to go around. But if we play a certain style of football that matches the weather that we're going to have to play in, and we can get through the conditions, we can play tough defensive football, run the football, and win low-scoring games, then that's good enough to win the Big Ten West if we have the right, if we get the right talent in the room.
Yeah.
That was Iowa's strategy all this time, and it's worked out for them. The problem is the Big Ten West dies. Like, it's officially over on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Like, once that Big Ten championship game is over, the Big Ten West is done. That's it. There's no more Big Ten West. That's it. So you don't get to just say, well, as long as we can beat Wisconsin and Nebraska and, all these other schools in the West, we're fine. Like, no, now you have to not only beat Michigan when they come around, you're going to have to beat USC. You're going to have to beat Oregon. You're going to have to beat Washington. Like, you have to beat all those schools. So now you're really in a pickle. You got 18 teams in your league. You're not just going to get to play the same 7 or 8 every year.
Well, yeah, and it was an interesting job when he took it because he was such a hot name coming out. Like, he could have had almost, it felt like the pick of the litter, and he chose Minnesota. And they had success a couple years in. They went 11-2 and then tied to finish first in the West. But that was back in 2019. Now they've sort of plateaued. 3-4 in the COVID year, that doesn't count. 9-4, 9-4, 5-7. And this happens with coaches, the roller coaster. But I think the road
they did lose a 4-year starter at quarterback.
Yeah.
In Tanner Morgan. So PJ Fleck's an interesting one. Yeah.
I don't know. It's not. I don't think anybody really in the Big Ten is in control, unless your name is like Ryan Day and they're tired of you losing to
losing the 3 games you've lost in your tenure.
I think I wrote this as a joke, just to get your reaction out of it, but. They're big mad about that.
They are.
Always. They are. Ohio State fans are huge mad.
But the good news is for Ryan Day, the Michigan game becomes less important now in the 12-team playoff.
Right.
So if you're 11-1, you lost that game, you're not going to the Big Ten title game, well, you probably still will be because you're the second best team in the league. That's fine.
Yeah.
You're all right. You're good. You're if Ohio State, they wouldn't be nobody would be worried about what the committee's going to say if you're 11-1. You're just going to be like, all right, well,
sick.
Yeah, all right, we're probably going to get a first-round playoff game at home. That's fine. Wish we had the bye, but all right, moving on.
The stat was baffling where it was
he's 40
40-0 versus the rest of the Big Ten and 1-3 versus Michigan.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And yet everyone else is can't have it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna ask, I would genuinely ask Ohio State fans this question. Would you rather just have 3 losses to Michigan, or would you have to sit around and go, how did we lose to Purdue 3 years in a row? Mm-hmm. You tell me what you want. I'd rather be 11-1 and be befuddled by my rival. And I'll tell you who Ryan Day's on the track of a guy who won a national title. He's on the Mac Brown track.
Yeah.
Early on in Mac Brown's career, he could not figure, before 2005, there was a period there where he could not figure out Oklahoma. It was just everything's going well. Crap, we played Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then 2005 happened and he flipped the script a little bit.
Yeah.
So eventually, and here's the thing. Jim Harbaugh's leaving, guys. He's probably leaving. So.
NFL?
Yeah, he's probably going to the NFL. Michigan probably wants that to happen because then they can kind of be a little smoother.
Do not pay attention to the person behind the
curtain. Michigan will be oh, damn, sorry.
Yeah.
It sucks, but we've got you this big fruit basket that you can have.
We present to you this laurel. The ones that I had. What do we think about Mario Cristobal? How's that going? 3 years?
I think
75.
I think Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier are both in prove it years.
That's what I have Billy Napier next.
Yeah, Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier are both in prove it years this year because they will have had a couple years of good recruiting classes that should start to show out for them now a little bit, maybe not all the way, but they're going to have to get better. Like, they're going to have to be better. Mario Cristobal needs to figure out the quarterback situation. Tyler Van Dyke's in the portal.
Yeah, he just declared for that, right?
Yeah, but he also had the end of his year was just terrible. I mean, he had 11 turnovers. They benched him. He had to come into the Florida State game. He threw 3 passes, and one of them got picked off. So to end the game. So there are, and then I think he said to play for the rest of the last couple games because of the injury to Emory Williams was so bad. But he's moving on. So is Emory Williams your guy? Are you going to go into the portal? Who is that going to be in the portal?
Well, just these Florida schools can't continue, and I know we're going long on this segment, but these Florida schools can't continue to just sit up and like have Florida State have already lapped you.
Well, and that's another thing. Yeah,
kind of embarrassing for you as like.
And look, the coach
as Miami.
I know that UCF is probably not completely on their radar yet, but they do have to acknowledge the fact that UCF is going to poach guys from all 3 of those schools now because they're competing with them. Now, is UCF going to go get the 5-star wide receiver away from FSU? No. But they might get a couple of 4-star linebackers. They might get – look, FSU's – I'm going to say their second best linebacker is a UCF transfer. So, again, like Gus is going to swim in the water with you. As a matter of fact – I mean, I would say if you ranked the top 4, the coaches 1 to 4, you would say it's Mike Norvell, Gus, then Mario and Billy in the state of Florida right now. Mm-hmm. Like Gus has done more than Billy and Mario have, and Mike Norvell's just new to success. So
and Gus is like a couple really baffling blown leads away from having an outstanding season.
Well, like his quarterback was hurt for a good chunk of the year. So yeah, I think that there are things that that they can all do. Like I think Billy Napier is not as far behind as maybe people think he is. He just got to get a couple things right because he's a pretty darn good coach. But he can't wait. Like his seat's going to be hot. Yeah. Mario Cristobal might have a little bit longer than Billy Napier because he's been a little bit more successful and he's an alum, a reach into the past, but he's got to be better. And they were better this year. Miami was better. But they also lost a game for a baffling coaching decision. And turns out that that's not the first time that he'd lost a game that way.
Right.
So like those are all those things that Mario Cristobal has to get better at. And Miami's also promised him facilities and all these things that they didn't have. So they'll probably give him a little bit more time because they went so far into the kitty to get him. But he still has to show like, you got to, they beat Clemson. So that was good. Went toe-to-toe. Well, kind of. Like, FSU game was close, but, like, they had 2, like, miracle touchdowns in that one. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see.
Bring back the Orange Bowl. That's what I'm saying.
It's totally true. Yeah. They have not been the same since they blew that thing up.
Yeah. Real quick, Sam Pittman, Arkansas, shocked he didn't get fired genuinely.
Look at this. So want to hear some breaking news?
Yeah.
From Pete Thamel, Arkansas is hiring former head coach Bobby Petrino as their next offensive coordinator.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Use that meme as a bat signal.
Yeah. That's going to be like Emory, who does the top 5. Anytime I have Bobby Petrino or anything, he uses that picture. This is the best news for him.
You don't have to change anything.
Yeah. Bobby, that is wild. Yeah. So, Sam...
the further we go into the future, the more we're doomed to repeat the past, I think.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Also, I would ask Sam Pittman, and now granted it was largely Jimbo's fault, but did Bobby Petrino save Jimbo's job? No. He didn't. No, that was mostly Jimbo's fault because he hired him and was like, all right, you're the offensive coordinator. He's like, all right, well, I've got a bunch of new plays. He's like, no, you don't. Here's the plays. These are the plays we're going to run. Like, Yeah, but these aren't my plays. They're like, they are now.
We only do 80s Joel.
Yeah, exactly. We only do 80s, Joel, sir.
Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. I don't know what you're supposed to expect at Vanderbilt.
There was a rumor about Jimbo Fisher getting that job.
They are bad, man.
Yeah,
and they've
but
been bad his entire tenure. They're too rich and too big to like. You can't. You just have to be better. You know what I mean? And I get it. The SEC needs Vanderbilt more than Vanderbilt actually kind of needs the SEC for football. But, dude, you have everything.
Yeah,
Be better.
Yeah, you could be the floor there needs to be 8-4.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, they're like 7-5, 8-4. They need to do
like
that most
0-9.
every year. Yeah, they don't need to be that bad. And look, Clark Lee, I think, is the first coach that's like ever approached that with, you can win here because it's an SEC school and we have these advantages. We just need to make sure that the kids who can come to Vanderbilt and excel at Vanderbilt know that Vanderbilt's cool.
Yeah.
Like part of the problem. Like sometimes it's hard if you don't have the right guy selling it.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there since 2021, and I kind of went like 2-10, 5-7, 2-10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tough.
Absolutely.
And finally, kind of end on a fart here, but like Shane Beamer. Like, okay.
No, I mean, like, yeah, I think they'll probably stick with it. South Carolina's usually like they'll usually like let it ride out for a little while.
Yeah.
Because they know who they are. You know.
Again, one of those teams that we were saying that's going to be a lot of the have-nots in the SEC.
Yeah, it is, but it's hard. Like, you also just can't keep changing coaches and expect success.
But can't you?
I mean, the Carolina Panthers hope you can.
Yeah.
Like, each coach is going to get a shorter and shorter tenure. You know, Matt Rule got like a year and a half. Frank Reich got not even a year.
Yeah.
The next guy is going to get like 7 games. And then it's just going to be 17 different head coaches for each game for the
Special
Panthers.
teams coordinator, can you do it? Come on.
Yeah, 17. Oh, no, you're fired. 17 different guys. Until the last game when you were looking 1-16 in the face, the kid who wrote the best essay about why he'd be the Panthers head coach would get to do it. So that's...
I think that the owner, David Tepper, is doing a great job, and
Yes.
you should let me, kid, with the moxie, get in here.
You're in. You're in. All right, thanks to Royden Ogletree. Thanks to Jack McKenzie. Thanks to Garrett Ross. Tomorrow, Stephen Simcox joins. Later in the week, we will have Dave Aranda in studio here. So we're trying to that's tentative right now, but yeah, I think we're not sure what day, but yeah, we'll be able to have that.
You going to let him read the chat?
No, absolutely not. I don't think any of us should really be reading it either.
Chat, chime in with what questions you want to ask Dave Aranda on the
When you
365 hotline.
Yeah, anytime you ask, like I keep waiting for fans anytime we get somebody like that on there to ask the Michael and Toby questions. Like, who do you think you are? What gives you the right? Like that's what fans want to know. Like, and then
Why are you the way that you are?
yes, exactly. When Art Briles was doing his coaching show, I was producing it, and then he stopped doing calling.
Right.
Because a guy called in and said, "Coach, if I never see another bubble screen again, it'll be too soon." And
that's tame to what I think.
Yeah, but that was the thing that he was like, "No, I don't need to hear from these chatterheads anymore. I can't do it. No, I can't do it." And I kind of get it, but like sometimes you just need to know, like when you make that much money, it's coming at you. Like, you know, now people can be rude. And look, I'm no Dabo Sweeney fan, you know that. Tyler from Spartanburg was a rude little kid. It was Dabo Sweeney's fault that he like took it the way he did.
Hey, we did this segment.
Yeah, so like, you gotta, you don't really necessarily need to fight fire with fire.
But all I'm saying is that I think the chat should weigh in with their questions.
I'm sure they will,
yeah.
whether we want them to or not. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.